abusive. Those are the ones that are going to do it. That's why they're trying to, on free speech grounds. I wanted to give an update on the Mahmoud versus Taylor case from last week. There was a Q&A with Don Herzog at the University of Michigan Law School blog. Professor Herzog is the Edson R. Sunderland Professor of Law, and he had a really sobering comment to them about the impacts of this ruling, and the ruling is that faith leaders and parents can pull their kids out of classrooms and essentially do a veto of any LGBTQ curriculum, saying, if you're going to teach that, I'm going to pull my kids out of this classroom. And, Professor Herzog said, and I'm going to quote him here from that blog, suppose that you are a prudently litigation-averse lawyer advising a public school board. I'm afraid the prudent thing for you to do is to advise, get all of the LGBTQ plus stuff out of the schools pronto.
Can I just throw another alternative? What if you got all the religious families out of the schools and said, you go somewhere else? Take your objection and go somewhere else.
If you are so concerned that of your kids learning something that violates their faith tradition, and he also said in there, he said, get ready for, it's not just going to be LGBTQ stuff now. They're going to come for evolution. They're going to come for, anything that violates their quote-unquote.
Right. Because religious folks want falsehoods about the election in 2020 to be in their public schools. Get out of public schools. Get out. You don't belong there. You don't deserve it. Go to some parochial lying factory.
Homeschool your kids. Homeschool your kids. Send your kids to a faith-based school. And if they're like, and that's what the court is saying, is the court's like, well, it's expensive to homeschool, and it's expensive to send them to faith-based schools.
Yeah.
So, they should just be able to have that at public schools.
Right.
No.
If you're going to teach them to be dumb, you can do that yourself, I guess.
No. Well, we didn't get to everything today because we really got onto the bill, the big, beautiful sucker bill. But we're going to obviously be talking about it all this week because that's just what's going to dominate, and it's affecting the queer community, the entire country. And so we'll keep covering that. For now, thank you for listening today. Up next on WCPT 820 is Chew's Views with Richard Chew on AM 950 Radio. It's the Matt McNeil Show. And stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio. And then step into the unknown with Greg Bakken on Ghostbox Radio at 10 p.m. Central. Connect with us on Blue Sky. We're at thegaileyshow.org on Blue Sky. And until tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit InsureKidsNow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Ooh, just what I needed. A mug. This time of year, what do you give? When it's your extra concert, game, or special event tickets to VetTix, you're giving our nation's brave service members and veterans an amazing experience. Give something to those who gave. VetTix. For more information on how you can make a difference right now, or to become a VetTixer, go to vettix.org.
From the heart of Chicago, it's WCPT 820. Progressive Talk Radio, where facts matter and voices fight for change. WCPT 820.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says Republicans got the job done in passing President Trump's big bill of tax breaks and spending cuts. It's now headed back to the House with a final vote possible today. Vice President Vance broke a 50-50 tie for Republicans yesterday after a tense overnight session. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says the bill would increase the deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion over the next decade. A new vote count confirms that Zoran Mamdani won New York City's Democratic primary for mayor. The 33-year-old state assembly member defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo in a stunning upset. Iran's president has ordered the country to suspend cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. The announcement comes after U.S. and Israeli airstrikes hit its most important nuclear facilities last week. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports the Trump administration is halting some weapons shipments to Ukraine.
The Pentagon isn't saying which ones, but the U.S. is halting some weapons shipments to Ukraine. This after a Pentagon review determined stockpiles have declined too much. The White House says the decision was made to put America's interests first, and the Pentagon's top policy advisors stressed the need to preserve U.S. forces' readiness. Last week, President Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the NATO summit and left open the possibility of sending more Patriot air defense missile systems, telling reporters,
"We're going to see if we can make some available. They're very hard to get. We need them too. We were supplying them to Israel. And they're very effective, 100% effective. Hard to believe how effective. And they do want that more than any other thing."
Ben Thomas, Washington.
Trump says Israel has agreed on terms for a 60-day ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. He also warned the Palestinian militant group Hamas to also accept the deal before conditions worsen. This is AP News. Paramount has agreed to pay $16 million to settle a lawsuit filed by President Trump over the editing of CBS's 60 Minutes interview with then Vice President Kamala Harris in October. Trump's lawyer said the president had suffered mental anguish over the editing of the interview. Jurors in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial say they've reached a verdict on 4 of 5 counts. Deliberations continue for the top charge against the hip-hop mogul, racketeering conspiracy. The Dalai Lama says the centuries-old Tibetan Buddhist institution will continue after his death. Speaking in Tibetan, the Dalai Lama says he will not be the last Tibetan spiritual leader and that China should stay away from the process of identifying his successor. He was speaking at prayer celebrations ahead of his 90th birthday on Sunday. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers possible late today. Otherwise, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops with a high around 90. Winds out of the west around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low around 69. Thursday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops, high of 92. 4th of July Friday, sunny, high of 95. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 72.
Empower. Tim collects bobbleheads. A lot of bobbleheads. Baseball bobbleheads. Race car bobbleheads. Little Chihuahua bobbleheads. He's got an entire room strictly for bobbleheads. Does he need them? No. Is his wife mad about it? A little. But Tim works with Empower, and he got good at money, so he can be a little bad. Ooh, horse bobblehead. Classy, Tim. Empower. Invest well, live a little. Start today at empower.com.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter. Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Good Wednesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the July 2nd, 2025 edition of Choose Views. My headphones are acting goofy over here, but okay, there we go. They're all right. That's good. We'll make them work. The July 22nd, 2025 edition of Choose Views. We're locked in, guys. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line, and we want you to give us a holler. We're going to be busy today. I'll give you guys a rundown in a moment. You can always find us on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio, of course. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com and catch me on Substack. Thanks to the recent folks that have subscribed to my Substack page. I appreciate that. And, of course, catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whichever one, or both. You can get Choose Views featured interviews and all that good stuff there, along with Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez. Patty's so cool. Just posted a picture of the two of us at the Pride Parade. Patty, every year, Patty and I have the last couple of years had a couple cool pictures that we've gotten. It's been kind of fun. Edwin Eisendrath, The Big Picture. You got to check out his work. And, of course, Out Chicago and our other shows and interviews that we have for you by making your way over to where? The heartlandsignal.com digital platform, because of all of the cool stuff that we have there. Today's guests on our show include our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. But before that, at 6:30, we've got Alex Lawson from Social Security Works will be with us this morning, which is exciting. Alex is just one of those guys that's got so much great information on an area that's so critically important, and I know that we're going to be talking about the bill this morning. So Alex will be with us in the 6:30 segment, and then Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 will be with us briefly this morning at the 7 o'clock hour, right after the break. And then we're just running this morning from baton to baton to runner to runner. We're going to have Congresswoman Robin Kelly with us this morning, earlier than planned, but we're gonna fit it all in to make it work around the 7:20 time frame this morning, because she's got to be back down on the floor for whatever's happening with the vote that's coming back to the House with this big, ugly, stupid bill. So there you go, guys. We got a carload of things happening this morning. But right now, progressives, check this out.
Christian Mitchell, and I am so excited to be your next lieutenant governor. I was really lucky growing up. I was raised by a wonderful mother who was a nurse for 38 years in the NICU at Rush University Hospital. I had a grandfather who stepped in and filled the void for me and was a sergeant in the U.S. Army and a union steelworker. They both taught me what it was like to care about your family and work really hard, how you continue to move forward in difficult times. That's why I wanted to go into public service, because as difficult as life can be, I believe it can be a little bit easier if you've got leaders in government who care about working families, making life more affordable, making healthcare more accessible.
And that is Christian Mitchell, who was selected by our Governor J.B. Pritzker as part of his running mate for this next term, this third term. So that's the new big announcement here in the state of Illinois. And so, yes, it's an Illinois thing, but it's a country thing, because, as you know, right now, the state of Illinois is really has taken the lead, I would say, with the number of our leaders who are in the fight, starting with Governor J.B. Pritzker and our current Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. But Christian is part of the announcement, going to be the running mate for J.B., and we all should be excited about that. And so we, what he says and what we all are knowing and are aware of is the importance of having leaders that are leaning in. We're pushing that wall over, and that wall being the one that the GOP, and I'm going to just, I'll probably slip up every now and again, but I'm just going to refer to it as the GOP, because it's, we can't blame MAGA anymore. I mean, we can, because those are the citizens that vote for these folks that are causing this harm. This bill is at the top of the list, and the list is long. But we can't blame. We can't solely blame MAGA. Yes, they are the voting bloc, but at some point, as a representative, you got to be able to stop and say what's right for more than just me and my career as a politician. And I would be dropping the ball if I didn't throw some shade this morning at the GOP. How could you, in any sense, I mean, who said it best? It was a clip that we played earlier this week, that the GOP should be afraid of. I don't know if we played that one yet of Senator Booker. I thought we did, but they should be more. The GOP should be more afraid of the voters than they are of Donald Trump. The GOP elected officials should be more afraid of the voters than Donald Trump. And I dare say that Lisa Murkowski is afraid of her vote. She must not be concerned about her voters as much as she says she is, because if she were, then she would recognize that this is probably going to, burn somebody's biscuit, but she totally got played. I was going to say something else that gets involved with pimps and prostitutes, but Henry has a 6th and 7th sense. He kind of knows when I'm going down that path, and he just gives me that little look, and I bring it back. But that's what happened, and so I just feel like the GOP is at fault. The GOP has to be called out. The GOP has to reckon with this, and their voters have a responsibility too. Because if you voted for a person who has voted for this at this point, this bill, the House had their moment, the Senate had their moment, now it's going to go back to the House, then you're responsible for hurting people. And as much as we can be, I'm not even disappointed with Lisa Murkowski. She's not aging well. And I don't mean that in any kind of gender-based way. She looks awful. She just does. So she's got to be, I'm trying to be human in this, or maintain some humanity. If she's in turmoil, I feel bad for her that she's in that much turmoil, that there's nobody in her camp, nobody in her life that can say, hey, listen. And then she looks like hell. And because of the angst that she must be going through, or the fear that somebody has put into her, it's showing. It is externally showing. Now, that being said, if she can make the decision to vote for this, she could have made the decision to vote against it. And I don't buy that. I do think that they counted the votes. Let me just say this. I do think that the Republicans, because I've watched this before, and I was talking with my wife about this last night. Susan Collins voted no. Okay, 50-50 tie. Vance comes in, breaks the tie, which we got to hang that around his neck forever and ever. We have to hang that around the Democrats, the Democratic leaders, whoever. Y'all got to hear this. Hang this around his neck. If Trump dies and JD becomes the president before the end of this term, and he has to run in 2028, Democrats, y'all better hang this around JD Vance's neck with receipts. Okay? There is no excuse. There is no reasons, and there's no excuse. Excuses. So, counting votes. I don't give Susan Collins any medal for doing the right thing. Okay, right? She voted no. But I think they looked at the votes and said, okay, I can vote no, and Murkowski can vote yes. We'll be in if we have the tie, then JD can come in and break the tie, so none of us look that bad. That's what I think happened. I don't buy this garbage that Lisa I just can't. I cannot, given the demographic of the state of Alaska, doesn't she realize that the people in her community are going to be harmed by this? And she got played. And like I said, I did my best to stay away from using an analogy of pimps and prostitutes, but she got played. Or if she didn't get played and she was calculating in this, that's even worse. I almost would rather she got played than to think that there was a calculus, which part of me wants to, try that on and see if it fits. But at the end of the day, no matter which position, how we present it, et cetera, the GOP and their voters are responsible for this. I'm not blaming any Democrats. I'm not going to take this is the thing, Henry. It's easy to blame. I think it's easy to blame the Democrats. It's easy to say the Dems should do this, the Dems should do that. We already know that. But the Democratic caucuses in the House and the Senate, they lined up with their leader. I'm not always down with what Hakeem Jeffries says in some of his letters and all that, and with Schumer. I'm not, I can be critical of them and complimentary at the same time. But I'm not going to get in their backside on this right now, because they're not one broke caucus. So if you're out there and you're PO'd at the Dems, I get it. At the same time, they lined up and they said no. So they have to be given, this is where we make the mistake sometimes as regular, everyday folks, as voters. We have to acknowledge that now and put our ire of anger toward the Republicans. I mean, I'm telling you guys, I know it's easy to say that, so-and-so didn't do this on our side. That's an easy route. It takes more, it takes, I believe, a little bit more courage to continually call out the Republicans because they're the one that had the gun and decided to pull the trigger. We didn't do that. Our caucuses did not do that. So let's be mindful of that as best we can. Where are the Dems right now? What are the Dems trying to do? I got to believe, and we're going to talk with Congresswoman Kelly about this, and tomorrow we're going to talk with Congressman Krishnamurthy. What are they doing to push back and fight? We want to have that conversation without a doubt. But this is, again, we can get into the conversation around the Electoral College. We can have all those conversations, all of them, every last one of them. But ultimately, guys, the Democratic elected officials did not pull the trigger to harm the American community. That did not happen. That's a factual statement. The Republicans did. So if you want to be PO'd at somebody, call the switchboard at 202-224-3121. Call Mike Johnson's office in Texas. Call his office in D.C. Call the Republicans in the House at this point and get in their backside. Don't call Dems and get in their backside. If you want to call a Dem, say, listen, stay in line. Don't step out of line. But get after the Republicans. I'm sorry. I got to say that. All right, Henry, let's take a quick break. The number, guys, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Excuse me, miss. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can you recommend a bank that offers a full suite of commercial banking products along with excellent service?
Yes, ABOC.
What about a bank that has been in Chicago for more than 100 years and really understands the local business climate?
ABOC.
But I manage a labor union. Can you recommend a bank that really understands how labor unions operate and what banking products they need?
Again, ABOC. ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922 and understands the local business climate better than anyone. ABOC was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders today, so they really understand how unions tick and how their needs may be different. But whether you're with a labor union or another type of business, whether you're large or small or something in between, ABOC will always make you feel like you're their most important customer. Visit ABOC.com to learn more.
Wow, thank you, random person on the street. I'm going to visit ABOC.com today.
Member FDIC. Chicago's Progressive Talk. WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. A couple quick Choose Views news on this very tight running morning. All right, May job openings hit a 6-month peak. May job openings rose in May to the highest level in 6 months, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics in their report yesterday. Total job openings increased to 7.8 million from 7.4 the previous month. The hospitality sector accounted for about 3/4 of May openings, suggesting that employers in the other industries were getting wary about making new hires, according to Bloomberg. In other economic news, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said the central bank would have cut rates by now if tariffs hadn't been in play. There it is, and then that has an overlay into the hiring. Just so you know, U.S. is scaling back trade deals and its goals accordingly by narrowing their trade goals ahead of the July 9th deadline. If you guys recall, instead of the White House's original 90 deals in 90 days, it's not a game. The U.S. is seeking new phase agreements with some nations, which should face only an existing 10% levy while negotiations continue, escaping higher reciprocal tariffs. All right, and last but not least, 880,000 U.S. workers get a pay raise. The minimum wage increases took effect yesterday in several states and municipalities across the United States, affecting a reported 880,000 Americans. Now, companies with more than 500 employees in Everett, Washington, must pay workers a minimum of $20.24 per hour. In Alaska, the statewide minimum wage is now $13 hourly. In Oregon, it's $15.05, while the federal minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. In one estimate, it shows that a full-time employee in the U.S. would need to earn $17 hourly to cover essential expenses. So there you go, guys. A couple of quick choose, views, news items this morning as we keep the train rolling along. And in that, make sure today you tune in to what? Joan Esposito on Live, Local, and Progressive. She'll be talking to Sonia Sutter and Naomi Kahn, co-authors of the recent articles in Nonprofit Quarterly, the conversation about the Supreme Court case, Medina versus Planned Parenthood, South Atlantic. Jen Goldbeck, professor, computer science, psychologist, expert in the far-right online extreme AI and bad things on the internet, and author of the Magar report on Substack. And David Lehman, former Providence, Rhode Island news anchor, managing editor, and political commentator for RIPBS. That's Rhode Island PBS. Live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. Central here on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years. And then tonight on Driving It Home, Patty will be joined by comedians Gwen LaRocca and Joey Villagomez promoting their Zany's Rosemont show. That should be fun. And Nathan Taylor, Executive Director of Advocacy and Public Engagement for Election Truth Alliance, a grassroots, nonpartisan organization dedicated to supporting election analysis, discussion, and peaceful action to highlight potential election manipulation, interference, and irregularities in results of elections. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. That is this 5 to 7 p.m. Central Time here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And then tomorrow on our show, Karen Byrne, co-host of True Blue Politics podcast, will be with us. Chanel Matthews and Marzina Zerkowska, co-editors of the Radical Communications Network anthology, Liberation Stories, Building Narrative Power for 21st Century Social Movements. And also Representative Raja Krishnamurthy from Illinois, candidate for U.S. Senate, will be with us as well. So we'll hopefully be able to talk with him about the vote. So there you go, guys. A very busy couple of days as usual. So much to say, so much to talk about. Like I said before we went to the break, this bill, wherever it is right now, and don't listen, someone sent me a great text this morning. Don't give up yet. The House needs to vote on the bill. And that's why I said earlier, call your representatives in your state, but also call the Republican representatives in your state. If you're in a red state and you're a blue dot in a red state, you still want to contact the representatives that are the GOP members of the House. You got to make the call, guys. And if it matters to you, then this is the time. Don't sit back and say somebody else will do it. This is your time to be able to be to have impact and to be a factor. So let's grab a quick call. Let's go to Andrew in Detroit. Good morning, Andrew. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for all the great work you do. Thank you to all the Wizards of Oz behind the curtains, keeping the show up and running. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I was listening to you, but yes, Democrats did everything right as far as their voting. Absolutely. But still, they needed to flood the zone. They needed to be on C-SPAN. They needed to be on, I can't stand him, but Morning Joe, while his show is still on. He'll listen to anybody. Look at how many times he listened to the Orange Menace. All you have to do is call in. They've got to be somewhere. They've got to be heard.
I get that.
They're voting right, but if they get more of the idiots on the other side to vote the right way, maybe we can straighten things out.
So what you're
I don't know.
So what you're saying? Okay, I get it, Jim, and I'm with you on that. Andrew, I apologize. You're saying just the message messaging has to be constant. There should be no time when they're not in front of a camera, and I'll partner with you on that, because right after the election and leading up into the inauguration, one of the things that I said that the Democratic Party, the elected officials in Congress have to do, they should split up the days of the week, and every single day there should be someone holding a press conference with 5-10 people around them every single day. And if anything, absolutely, right now, I can see where you're coming from. Yes, every single day they should have been woulda, coulda, shoulda, but even right now they should be in every outlet that's available talking about the harm of this bill. They are in some cases, but hold a press conference on the Capitol steps, all 214, 15 of them on the Capitol steps right now. And then that's, when I talk to Congresswoman Kelly later in the show, I will ask her about that. I will do what I can to position it to her, and we'll see where that goes. Is that going to work?
Yeah, it can't
Andrew?
be just Raphael Warnock all the time. But God bless him and the work he does. But if he's the only one, yeah. I don't know.
Well,
the other thing is, if this horrible bill does go through, we need to talk to the billionaire Democrats and ask them what they're going to do with that extra money. How much money do they need?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Richard.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Andrew, for the call. We appreciate you.
Sure. Bye.
All right. Bye now. Yeah, guys. What Andrew says is well taken. More, louder, longer, faster, whatever needs to happen. It needs to be, and I won't say that the Democratic the elected members of Congress haven't been speaking to this. They have been, and we've been playing a lot of the clips, and they've been going on the different shows and so forth. And they've been coming here onto my show and on other shows on CPT. It does need to be even louder. It needs to be consistent. And I said this right after the election, that they have to be willing to get in front of the camera, get in front of a microphone or whatever it takes every single day, Monday through Friday. Here's what we did. Here's what we're doing this week. Here's what the Republicans are doing to harm you. I think the message can be that simple. It can be, when I hear people say we want to have something to vote for, you should want to vote for getting rid of this carnage. I can repackage those words all day long. We don't, specifics of what we're going to do. I think we can get lost in that conversation and get too caught up going down these paths of, well, we got to talk to this group. We got to talk to that group. We got to talk to the other group. Yes. And the broad message should be, I think, we have to vote out this carnage. We have to get rid of this carnage. Here's what they're doing to hurt you. We have to get rid of them and that. To me, because see, it's not about, I don't think the wins going forward are going to be exclusively or maybe primarily trying to get Republican voters to flip. They're going to do it or they're not going to do it. If I want to give them any kind of credit, they can't be that stupid. Maybe they are, but they can't be that stupid to need someone to come and spoon feed them a new message. So if they're going to flip back or over, they got to make that decision. They got to take some responsibility. I'm tired of trying to beg people to do something that they should be able to do on their own. The folks that need to be messaged are the people that didn't show up. I've said this before, Henry. The people that didn't show up. It's like if you have you've got a performance, you got a concert, and people leave and go, man. Everybody that didn't show up goes, how was it? Well, you should have been there, right? You should have been there. Why are you asking me? You had an opportunity. We stood at the counter to buy tickets, and you're like, no, man, I got something else to do. And I know I'm oversimplifying it, but that's an analogy that I think is fair. Why are you going to you decided not to go to the concert, and your boy tells you, man, that was a great show. Oh, wow. Well, you could have gone. Let's get the people who sat on the sidelines to show up. And that's where our message has to be. The Republicans hurt you in this last cycle, and we want to help repair what they hurt on all fronts. The message can be that simple. We can get into the nuances, but I think the headline is Republicans have hurt America. That is a I think message that visually people can get with. Republicans have hurt Americans. and then fill in the blanks. I don't know. Call me crazy. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and be talking with our man, Alex Lawson. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Check Up on Health with Chris Whitting.
A study from Dr. Michael Miller at the University of Maryland shows that those with heart disease are less likely to find everyday life situations as funny or amusing as healthy people. While that seems like a natural complication of the disease, the research found that humor and a good attitude is an advantage for your body.
We now have chemical studies that can verify the link between stress or anger and the chemicals that are released, which may have an adverse effect on the blood and the heart arteries. That individuals should try to spend less time being angry and hostile, and certainly ways that could combat that. Any way you slice it, laughing could only be helpful.
Dr. Miller says physicians are becoming more and more aware of the importance of good emotional health to help improve outcomes for their patients. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers possible late today. Otherwise, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops with a high around 90. Winds out of the west around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low around 69. Thursday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops, high of 92. 4th of July Friday, sunny, high of 95. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 71.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. I forgot to give a shout out to my man Henry for getting us off to the races this morning. I always want to make sure my man knows publicly, live, how much I specifically appreciate all the hard work that he puts in to make sure that we are rolling along. So listen, speaking of hard work and people that are putting in the work, we have with us this morning is one of our old friends that's back for another run with us, and that would be the executive director of Social Security Works, Alex Lawson. Good morning, Alex, and welcome to the show.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
What's going on, man? I heard you had to pull your car over so we'd have a good, clear signal.
Yeah, got to balance all of the things, but here I am, and I think the news from D.C., just to jump right in, is the rain that we're sitting in. I'm sure you read about it, but the weather here and up and down the East Coast is probably the most important thing for whether the Republicans are going to be able to advance this bill in the House. Yeah,
it's crazy, man. And I'm just, first of all, honored and grateful to have you back on the show. I know that the specific work that you do as executive director of Social Security Works is in that lane. But when you spread your wings, given the importance of this bill and all the harm it's going to cause, I mean, I know that this has got to make your skin crawl when you see what this is going to do and how many people are going to be harmed. And in the space of talking about Social Security, what are some of your observations right now? We know that the Republicans are leading this charge, but let's talk about some of your observations as a professional that you are.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's depressing in a way to just be face to face with a political party, the Republicans, who are, they're barreling this train down the tracks. And what it does is it steals health care from 17 million Americans. It steals food off the plates of those who are hungry. I mean, biblically bad, right? 51,000 people die a year because of this bill, because their health care is stolen by these millionaire politicians and their billionaire bosses, all so that trillions of dollars in tax handouts can go to billionaires. And, to just watch the cowardice of the Republicans, like Lisa Murkowski from Alaska in the Senate, right? Oh, I'm going to vote again. She says she knows how bad it is for Alaska. She was being bribed.
Yep.
She was being bribed by getting her state out of the bill, right? She's like, please, can you take my state and exclude it from the effects of this bill? And that's the bribe that I'll take. The Klondike kickback was we'll kill less of your people than we do of the people in Missouri, in where Josh Hawley didn't even get anything. I mean, that man's a slug. So, the only thing that you have to wonder here is, are they a coward or are they complicit? Are they a criminal complicit in this looting of people's health care? It really is. You can probably hear it in my voice. It starts in a sad place. It's depressing. But then I get filled with rage at the people who are literally hurting and will kill the least among us, the most vulnerable Americans, all to give tax handouts to people who are already richer than this world has ever seen before, like Elon Musk and his ilk. It's a disgusting display, but that's what the Republicans are doing.
Yeah,
they own it now. They own.
That's exactly right. And I knew you were probably going to say that. So while you were talking, you were coming up with different words to describe. I wrote down 3 words that you said, not in order, but they were part of what you just opened with. Criminally complicit cowards. That's who they are. Somebody hashtag that. Kurt or Karen or somebody. That's criminally complicit cowards is who the GOP has turned. They've been for a longer period of time. Now it's just been outed. Alex, let me help us with this part of the conversation in your area of expertise. How will this, based on the assessments that you guys have run, and I know you've run a bunch of models in this conversation, how will this impact Social Security benefits? And I know that's a big, broad question. We could talk about that for hours. But can you give us something that talks about that?
Yeah, so I think it's important to sort of put it on to try to visualize the harms and the impacts. So the greatest harms and impacts definitely come from the destruction of Medicaid and the destruction of food assistance, right? So those two are just enormous. 17 million people, 11 in Medicaid alone. It's $1 trillion cut from Medicaid. The destruction of food assistance and SNAP. Now, the reason I say this is, we want to silo things like what's the impact on just Social Security or this or that. The truth is that for the American people, these systems are all intertwined, right? So people who are relying on Medicaid, you're talking about seniors. You're talking about people with disabilities, the most vulnerable Americans. Well, guess what? They also rely on Social Security. Social Security disability is a large part of the Social Security system. So you're talking about the oldest of the old, people with disabilities, people in nursing homes, because I know you know this, but I want to just quantify some of this stuff. And this is from Senate Finance Democrats put out these studies. 1 in 4 nursing homes are going to close. 25% of nursing homes will close because of the destruction of Medicaid. Okay? 25%. So what happens to the other 3 out of 4, right? What happens to them? They're going to be inundated with people trying to get in to these, the ones that remain open. Everybody's care goes down. Now, what effect does that have on people on Social Security? A massive one, because no one is looking to enter the nursing home system as it stands today. Anyone who's dealt with it knows that it's a disaster today. And now there's going to be 1 in 4 of them closed.
Well,
now go to hospitals. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and check this part out, Alex. This is the other part. So this is where I'm with you in terms of the domino effect, or as my wife has said for me, the dotted line impact of it all being connected. Employees, 25%. So the people who work in those facilities that are going to lose their job, that has an immediate impact on the local economy and then the broader economies. Because if they pay state tax, they pay federal tax. So now the tax dollars, this is where people, oh, Lord, help us out this morning. We got Alex, you and I got to sit down and pray because I know you wanted to cuss and so did I. But this is where people just don't get it. That if 25% of people are no longer working because of the same numbers based on the facilities closing, that means state, county, and federal tax dollars go down. But these knuckleheads don't get that. They don't think about that. And the people who vote that want to just like, the GOP is the right way to go and MAGA and this, that, and the Dems are all. Did you ever stop and think that if 25% people are less employed, how that's going to impact the local economy? They don't get that, Alex.
Exactly.
That's craziness.
Exactly. And we didn't even get to hospitals, which are very often the largest employers in many areas of this country.
Absolutely.
In rural America, a hospital is not just a place where you get emergency care, but is also oftentimes the largest employer where people also get their insurance. Well, guess what? Rural health care is basically gone after this bill. Rural health care is in a crisis right now. And then you kick the stool out from under it, and rural hospitals across this country just collapse.
Yep.
David Dayen did a piece in the American Prospect called "The Republicans Propose a Hospital Apocalypse." I invite everyone to read it. It really gets the magnitude correct. I followed up with a piece in Common Dreams yesterday talking about the nursing home apocalypse. So 2 apocalypses, right? What's the impact of those 2 things on people, on folks relying on Social Security? Massive impact. But I'm not trying to dodge your question at all. I just want to walk.
No. You're not. You're not at all. You're not at all, man. I don't think of it that way. You're making the connection, and I appreciate you doing that because that's my belief. Is that everything is connected and intertwined. So no. You're not dodging the question. I know exactly what you're trying to do, and that's to show the domino effect of one thing connecting to the next, to the next, to the next. So we're in the same car on this, literally.
And what it is you get exactly as you laid out. Medicare and Social Security are literally connected, right? So your Social Security benefit, if you get a Social Security benefit, that just goes to pay automatically your Medicare premiums, right? So they're literally linked, these 2 systems. So when the GOP scam, the big, beautiful betrayal, and I don't want to will anything or wish anything into existence, but everything it's going to become law. It's barreling down the tracks, and Donald Trump is putting everything he's got. It includes $500 billion in cuts to Medicare, right? So that is a cut to people's Social Security benefits. Whether they call it that or not, the truth is if your check goes down because more of it has to go to pay for your Medicare, then that's a cut to your benefits.
Yep.
Right? So now people on Social Security, their benefits go down, their health care gets worse, and if they live in a rural area, then, they basically have a prayer. That's what they have for health care now. And then I've spent a lot of time doing this because as I'm talking, I'm sure there's some people who are like, well, I don't live in rural America and I'm not on Social Security, so I'm probably going to be fine. No, you're not. Of course you're not. If your hospital doesn't close, where do you think the people are going to be driving 4 hours to get the care? To your hospital. This is all in the models. We know what happens. Everybody's health care, the quality of care collapses. That's the effect. And that's how they get part of the money to hand to their billionaire donors. $1 trillion in cuts. So this bill is a absolute monstrosity. Senator Bernie Sanders had a great video yesterday, and you could just feel the disgust that he had in describing this bill. But he calls it the most dangerous and destructive bill in modern U.S. history. And I agree with them. We've never seen anything like this. And I know you know this. You deal with it a lot as well, I'm sure. You get people who are like, oh, yeah, well, you always are saying that the Republicans are going to do this. In Trump's first term, you said they were going to end Obamacare, and they didn't. And you're like, that's because we defeated them, right? You're like, it's not because they didn't try. It's because we won.
And
it's because we won.
And the other part of this, I mean, we've got this, that historical video and photo of John McCain, thumbs down, as one of the last things that he did as an American before he passed away. But here's the reason why I say as often as I can on my show, Alex, don't just call your Democratic elected officials. Call the Republican elected officials. Bother the hell out of them. Let them know. Call them. And I mean, I know it's maybe oversimplifying it, but there's work to be done in getting their attention as much as it is to get Democrats' attention. And I know in many cases with groups like yours, you try your darndest to remain nonpartisan. But at the end of the day, you got to call what you see. And that's why I believe it's important for folks to be contacting Republicans and letting them know you messed up. We're coming for you, or you better not do this, or we will come for you. Rather than just always, yelling at the Democrats for not doing more. Because right now, and you know the math, the numbers don't favor the Democrats in the House and in the Senate. But that doesn't mean that they should be sitting on their hands and not doing what they got to do. I got to, let me ask you another question, and I don't want to miss this because this is critically important. When you were talking earlier about the nexus of Social Security and the payments that are made as it relates to Medicare. The other part of this, and do you, what are your thoughts about this? Once those dollars go down and it puts more strain and stress on the systems, particularly when it comes to hospitals, and those hospitals in rural communities or even some suburban communities start to either close or wane in services. What do you think will happen with those bigger, more metropolitan hospitals? I mean, is it a common sense question where they're then going to not be able to expand, not going to be able to offer the services? I mean, what do you see happening there?
Yeah, they're going to get crushed. The magnitude, I have a master's in policy, so I spend a lot of time, you look for things that are similar in policy, like what are the effects going to be? These numbers are so big. And that's another problem is, you hear all these numbers all the time. So when I say $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, people are like, I don't know what that means. The closest thing that you could find to what we're looking at is the deindustrialization of America, right? Mm-hmm. When manufacturing jobs fled the shores, the bosses chose to the billionaires took those manufacturing jobs and moved them to other countries where they could pay their workers nothing and they didn't have protections, right? And you saw what happened there is wholesale destruction of entire swaths of this country, right? When manufacturing jobs just fled the shores. That's what's going to happen in a large portion of rural America, where you're going to just see, the transition from manufacturing to a service-based economy. A big part of that is healthcare, right? Mm-hmm. It's like that's part of it. And now you're just removing that in rural America. And those jobs will never come back. And that's a key thing. The hospitals are not going to just, they'll right size and then we'll get some smaller. Nope, gone. And you don't have to believe me. You can listen to the hospital associations. And then your question is exactly right. What happens? So let's just picture a person who needs emergency care, and they live out in rural Illinois. And now they luckily know that their hospital's gone, because a lot of times what happens, because we're already in the middle of a hospital collapse in rural America. And unfortunately, what we know is that people find that out when they go to the hospital and they find that it's closed, right? Like, you don't get a text, oh, by the way, these things that you thought were always going to be there are gone. But if you know that your hospital is no longer there and you find yourself in an emergency situation, what are you going to do? You're going to drive to the nearest hospital. You're going to put it in Google Maps and find the nearest hospital to drive to that you're going to get that care, right? Because you're in an emergency. It's a loved one. Well, guess what? Those hospitals that are left open, they're going to be dealing with an influx of people coming from areas that no longer have hospitals. And all the modeling shows the same thing. Increase in uncompensated care. That's stuff that the hospitals themselves have to put on their books because now Medicaid's not paying. So now they spend less money on every one of their patients, and there are more patients. So quality of care goes down dramatically. And in the nursing home setting, that leads directly to death, right? So you get harm and death when you take people's health care away. And you can do that in a few different ways, right? You can just the hospital's gone, but you're also taking people's health care away if they used to get 1 hour of care just on them, but now the doctors and nurses can only give them 15 minutes because there's 3 other people. Well, guess what? You're just removing their care, and that leads to harm and death. So no one except billionaires come out of this unscathed. If you don't have a helicopter to get you to the hospital that you need to go to, you're in the same boat as the people whose hospital has closed.
And I read an article recently, Alex, and I'm going to try to delve into this a little bit more, that talks about the same wealthy entities, specifically hedge funds, are buying hospital groups. And now the mergers that were taking place 5, 7, 10 years ago are starting to show exactly the point you just made, that the quality of care has gone down because of the mergings that have taken place by hedge funds purchasing up hospital groups. And that, to me, is a no pun intended, but an incredible recipe for death. And we're in that throes of that now. So, Alex, we got to do this again sooner than later. But I want to ask you right now, what is the thing that you think or feel or have researched or pushing that the elected officials that have their heads screwed on straight have to do or should be doing?
They have to make noise. And, I don't shy away from something that you said earlier. Everyone should be calling their Republican legislators. Absolutely. Look, they have a smaller majority. The Republicans have a smaller majority in the House than they do in the Senate. This bill passed out of the House previously by 1 vote. It's gotten markedly worse in the Senate. And you have at least 18 Republicans in districts where they won by fewer votes than people will lose health care if this thing passes, right? Like a Representative Miller Meeks in Iowa or David Valadeo in California. Hammer these guys with phone calls. Light them up on social media that this is what they're doing. Make sure their constituents know what's going on. And remember, the only way they've gotten to this point is by lying about what they're doing. Donald Trump goes on TV to this day and says he's not cutting Medicaid. $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts. This bill is incredibly unpopular. No one likes it. The problem is not enough people know what's in the bill. They'll find out what's in the bill when they go to a hospital and it no longer exists, and they say why, and it should have a sign on the right. This closure brought to you by Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. That's what's going on, and we need to raise people's. We still have a chance of blocking this in the House, right? No one can predict because you only need to find one right now. You have two people already saying no, one Republican. I personally think Donald Trump, the Republicans are more coward than anything. So when Donald Trump, calls them, they fold. They fold almost immediately. It's cowardice across the board. Just look at Lisa Murkowski yesterday if you want to see. So that's what people can do.
Alex, listen, man, I'm hoping you are getting an opportunity to take a few deep breaths here because I know it's been crazy for you and you're running hard. But thanks for the work that you do with Social Security Works, and thanks for helping us kind of break down a part of this, a component of this that shows the interconnection of all of these benefits and then how and who is going to be impacted by them the most. So Alex Lawson from the organization Social Security Works. He's the executive director, and I appreciate you being with us. One thing before you blow out, let folks know how they can find you, how they can find the organization.
We're online, socialsecurityworks.org, all over social media. I'll be heading to the Hill today to get some videos of cowards Republicans. I'll be asking them tough questions. We'll post that on social media. You can find us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter, all Social Security Works. The key right now is making as much noise as possible about the harms that this bill actually causes to the American people.
Absolutely.
And reminding people that if you're not a billionaire, it's coming out of your pocket. They're picking your pocket. They're stealing your money to give their political donors a handout.
That's right. Alex Lawson, thanks for being with us this morning, man. Be safe today. I know you're going to have a busy day, but we got your back, and we look forward to talking to you again soon, okay?
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Bye now. Wow. Well, that tells a story, guys. I mean, and that's why I'm so grateful that we were able to have Alex on this morning, because he referenced his master's degree in public policy, but he gets it. He gets it as one that studied it, but also as a practitioner. And that's why it's always good to have someone like that can take these things and break them down. 1 in 4. That's a crazy number. And my new little hashtag, criminally complicit cowards. That's what we're going to call them. There you go. Let's take a quick break, Henry. 773-763-9278. When we come back, we will be talking with our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. We'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. If you have children, they are always going to be your special bundle of joy. And if they're a newborn baby, you want to make sure what's best for them. So here are the best baby product companies that support the Democratic Party. Procter & Gamble. Now, Procter & Gamble owns Luvs, Pampers, and All Good. In 2024, Procter & Gamble gave $599,000 to the Democratic Party, 61% of their donations. Procter & Gamble supports the Democratic Party. Kirkland Diapers. Now, Kirkland Diapers are owned by First Quality. And First Quality does not give to politics, but their employees do, and their employees lean slightly to the left, as $50,000 are donated to Democrats in 2024. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
Viking, dedicated to creating travel experiences for the thinking person, with programs designed for cultural enrichment on board and on shore. Discover more at Viking.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Brian Koberger is expected in court today to plead guilty to charges related to the stabbing deaths of 4 University Idaho students in 2022. His decision to accept the plea deal came after efforts to rule out the death penalty failed. President Trump's big bill of tax breaks and spending cuts is headed back to the House with a final vote possible today. Speaking with reporters yesterday, House Speaker Mike Johnson says they're working towards a vote after a 51-50 passage in the Senate.
They went a little further than many of us would have preferred. So a lot of work ahead, but that's the job, so we'll get done.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office found 11.8 million more Americans would become uninsured by 2034 if the bill becomes law. Adding the package will add nearly $3.3 trillion to the deficit in the next decade. Hamas has signaled openness to a ceasefire with Israel, but insists any deal must end the war in Gaza. President Trump announced yesterday Israel had agreed to the 60-day ceasefire plan. Israel has not publicly commented, but maintains it will only end the war if Hamas surrenders and disarms. But Hamas refuses to do so. Iran's president says his country will cut ties with the UN's nuclear watchdog agency.
Iran's president has ordered the country to suspend its cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency after American and Israeli airstrikes hit its most important nuclear facilities, likely further limiting inspectors' ability to track Tehran's program that's been enriching uranium to near weapons-grade levels. The order by President Masoud Pezeshkian did not include timetables or details about what that suspension would entail. However, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi signalled in a CBS News interview that Tehran still would be willing to continue negotiations with the US. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
This is AP News. AP correspondent Donna Warder reports on a settlement between Paramount and President Trump.
Paramount has agreed to pay $16 million to settle President Donald Trump's lawsuit over the editing of a CBS 60 Minutes October interview with then Vice President Kamala Harris. Paramount says the money will go to Trump's future presidential library, not Trump himself, and that the settlement does not involve an apology. But Paramount has agreed that 60 Minutes will release transcripts of future interviews with presidential candidates, subject to redactions as required for legal and national security concerns. Trump's lawyer says his client suffered mental anguish over how Harris's 60 Minutes interview was edited. CBS and Paramount rejected Trump's contention that the interview was edited to enhance how Harris sounded, and they had sought to get the lawsuit dismissed, calling the suit completely without merit. I'm Donna Warder.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers possible late today. Otherwise, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops with a high around 90. Winds out of the west around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low around 69. Thursday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops, high of 92. 4th of July Friday, sunny, high of 95. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 73.
William is one of millions of Americans who uses GoodRx to save on the cost of their prescriptions.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, 2 days old, she had to have open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on 5 different medications. It adds up at the end of the month. Me and the pharmacist got so tight. She said, GoodRx save you a lot of money. Saving that extra $200-300 a month. We're able to do all these extra activities, so it puts less stress on our household, and it puts less stress on our pockets.
Download the free app or visit GoodRx.com and start saving today. GoodRx user compensated for their time. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, progressives. Welcome back to the show. Stay tuned for our WCPT progressive lineup, the Stephanie Miller Show, my radio sister on the West Coast, Tom Hartman Show, professor of everything progressive, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, and of course, Patty Vasquez, my bookend that's driving you home. And by the way, speaking of other folks in the WCPT world, Hal Sparks, WCPT, we're excited to announce that he's going to be coming back to Chicago, meeting Hal Sparks, for another live broadcast at Max and Benny's Restaurant, Deli, and Bakery up in Northbrook. Join Hal, Johnny Million, for a special live broadcast of the Hal Sparks radio program Saturday, July 12th from 11 until 1. If you can make it there, tickets are on sale now for a low cost of $20. To get your tickets, visit the heartlandsignal.com website and click on Hal Sparks live event banner at the top of the page. They are going to go fast, so hurry, hurry, hurry. If you won't be able to make it out to Max and Benny's, just make sure to tune in live Saturday the 12th from 11 until 1. And I will be there too, so looking forward to hanging out with Hal for a little bit. And keep in mind, guys, with the midterms only being 16 months away, WCPT has already started interviewing candidates and posting audio that you can find on our website. Visit heartlandsignal.com/candidates to hear and share the latest interviews, including U.S. Senate candidates Juliana Stratton, Mallory McMorrow, congressional candidates Laura Fine and Daniel Biss, and gubernatorial candidates David Jolly and Jocelyn Benson. Plus, my interview with Congresswoman Robin Kelly will be added later this morning. So you'll find the candidate interviews tab at the top of our website. So check it out, heartlandsignal.com. All right, we're running tight this morning, so I got to keep it moving. Let's welcome to the show, because it's Wednesday, that dude from a part of Indiana that is red as red can be, but he's doing his best to bring out his buckets of paint and painted blue. Kurt Mullett, y'all, from Hoosier Blue 63. How you like them apples this morning?
Yeah, perfect lead-in. Thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, but like so many of us, frustrated, but also highly energized, like my man Alex Lawson, who was just on a moment ago, talking about the frustration behind this, the lack of clarity, but at the same time, what he believes folks all have to do in terms of making their Congress people and others know that they can't vote for this bill. So I'm in the fight. You know me in that space. I'm give me a bat. I'm ready to swing.
Yeah.
Can I tell you
at all pitches? Yeah.
At all pitches. I mean, let me get another bat and I'll swing at them from both sides of the plate and make sure that we don't miss any opportunities. So, but anyhow, man, I know that this past week you've been super busy as always, and as I always say, I love your posts and I love the work that you're doing and putting great content out there for people to have something to lean into. What I think you got to realize about the things that you're posting each week, Kurt, is that people are always looking for something else, an additional bit of information, an additional bite of information, and that's one of the things that you do so well with your platform and the community that you've created. So appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It can be stressful. It's an emotional roller coaster, like I'm sure many of us are on right now. I try to stay positive and optimistic, but I'm also a realist, and I understand things that are going on in our country, and I'm just struggling to find ways that we can stop this train, because it just seems like nothing. They accused us of eating cats and dogs, but we're eating our own, and I just, it's a struggle, man. It's an absolute struggle.
You posted something that I didn't want to lose sight of, and I think it's really important for folks to look into this. And you posted how many people will lose health care in your state, and you broke it down per state, which I thought was phenomenal that you put those numbers together. And I know that you were able to kind of create that based on some of the state information. But, every state is at risk here, not just a few states. And I think that some of the perception from folks in red states, and you can answer this better than probably anybody that I talk to, some of the perception is that folks from red states think that what's happening now with this bill isn't going. There's still a belief out there, and I've talked to some people that it's not going to impact them. It's going to impact those people over there. So we use us as neighboring states, Illinois and Indiana. There are people in Indiana that don't think that this bill is going to impact them in any way, shape, or form, that it's going to affect those knuckleheads over in the state of Illinois. Talk about that and your experience in those conversations?
Well, we've talked about this before. Less than 10% of the American population are actually in tune with politics. The rest of them don't care, and they don't pay attention to it. So there's that. I mean, 90% or more of Americans don't have a clue at what's going on because they don't pay attention to it. And then you take that percentage and break it down to how many of them are in the MAGA world. And you could call them GOP. I'm still going to call them MAGA because they're not the GOP to me. So, and that's just, we have opinions on it, and that's what makes people unique. We all have the same, different opinions.
I can easily slip back into calling them MAGA. Don't worry.
You will. This won't last that long. But they're in denial. MAGA is all about supporting Trump because of what he's doing to us. Okay.
Yeah.
And people need to realize that it's the hatred that they have for the liberal party. And I've had a tough week because I've been attacked. I had a local dude attack me on Facebook and send me messages. The guy graduated 2 years behind me. I knew the name, but didn't even recognize. I can't remember him. I can't place him, and that's because when I did some research on him, and I hate saying this about people. He's a nothing. He was a nobody, and he came out and it started attacking me because of the things I'm saying about MAGA. So,
but nothing's changed though. He's still a nothing. He's still a nobody. Yeah. And it's like, of course you don't understand my point of view because you don't live my life or have been in my life and have taken the insults and the hateful rhetoric for the last, umpteen years that was blown up when President Obama came into office. So, but anyway, they just don't know. They think this is just only going to affect the libs, and that's the ignorance of the party. But that's who they are. They deny everything. They live in a world of denial. That's who they are. I'm struggling right now with one thing, and I was hoping to be able to talk about it this morning, but we will at another time. One of the things I put out this week was an audio reel that I had a picture of the Capitol, and I listed some things that could happen if this bill gets passed. And one of them was that he will have control of be able to delay or stop elections. Yep.
And people hammered me on it. Said, no, he ain't going to do that. There's laws against that and everything. Well, first of all, this guy's not following any laws, okay? And if you don't understand that by now, okay, you're not. You're not in tune with what's going on. But here's why I say that, because this is what fascist governments do, okay? They do away with the free and fair elections. We haven't had a free and fair election, and I'm going to say 2 out of the last 3 cycles, but, definitely the last one was not a free and fair election.
Especially when we talk about it from the perspective of voter suppression. And that's the part that a number of people have said to me. But keep going, because I know where you're headed on this, and we will talk about it for a moment or two, because I want to ask you a quick question. Go ahead.
So anyway, the reason I say this is because there's proof of this happening. Down in Miami, Florida, okay, the Miami commissioners just postponed the elections of 2025 to 2026.
Yep.
And the reason they did this, I don't know the details, but they're able to do this because they're Republican-controlled. They live in a Republican-controlled state.
It's a
now,
test.
If the Miami commissioners can do this, what do you think is going to happen on the national level?
It's a test to see how far. Listen, you said this about the state of Indiana, and what's the dude's name? What's your governor's name? I forget now. But you said
Mike Braun.
Yeah, you said it earlier. They're using states to test out what they can get away with, to then see, well, can we get it done in this state? Now let's nip off another and nip off another. That's what the Republicans in Miami are doing. They're testing it there to see how many people are going to fight back and push back. And if we can get it to work here, then we'll expand it to the county, and then we'll expand it from the county to the rest of the state.
To the state.
And then we'll
expand it now.
Then we'll try another red state. That's It's because state elections, federal elections, are run by the states, typically through the AG's office and the Secretary of State's office, typically. And this is their way of testing the waters to see, one, this is what they're really testing, Kurt. They're testing to see, are people paying attention? See, this is what happens. They try to put people asleep with distractions. They're going to talk about all the immigration issues down in Florida as a distraction. Meanwhile, those commissioners are halting elections locally. That's what's happening. Kurt was on to this a couple of weeks ago when he talked about what Braun is doing in Indiana. And you were right about that. And I saw the same thing with Miami, because that's where they're headed. So people have got to pay attention. You got to stop this getting distracted by stuff that doesn't. It matters, but it doesn't matter in the greater scheme of how we're going to be able to function as a country. That's what Kurt's been trying to say. Pay attention. I've been saying it. Pay attention to the things that are behind the curtain, because that's the stuff that's cutting you off at the knees. And this Miami thing is a great example of it.
Yeah, and I know you've got to go, but I'm going to say this again. If you think that laws of our Constitution and the laws placed in our country are of any concern to this dude and this administration, you need to wake up.
That's what the bill is trying to do.
Because you're asleep at the wheel. You don't understand what is happening. You don't understand what fascism is, and we don't understand the reality of what's going on. I mean, just like your previous guest talked about the nursing homes, 25% of them are going to close. Do you know how long we've been talking about boomers are about ready to explode the nursing home industry because of the amount of boomers that are in this world that are on the verge of I mean, how many of us are 60 to 80 years old above boomers? The largest generation of our time.
Yep.
We're retiring, and now they're going to close 25% of the nursing homes.
So that place that you thought you were going to be able, well, all right, you and I were about to about let me throw in one more thing before we let you go, because I know we're in a tight morning this morning, and I appreciate you being flexible. Kurt posted something else, guys, that I think it needs to be noted, and this one really caught me, and that's it's a really great piece that he put together. It says, imagine if Republican members of Congress fought as hard for the American people as they do for the felon and the billionaires. So in other words, don't be afraid. I'm interpreting, but don't be afraid of them. Those guys, they should be afraid, like Senator Booker said, they should be afraid of the everyday voters. But yes, that's a great post. Imagine if the Republican members of Congress fought as hard for the American people as they do for the felon and the billionaires. Man, it's always good to have you with us. And
you too, my man.
We got to keep banging.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know it's a short run this morning with Congresswoman Kelly having to get down to the floor, so we want to make sure we get this all kind of fit in this morning. But Kurt, thanks for being with us, man. I'm glad you're well. I know you're struggling with this like I am, but we keep fighting. Just listen, man.
I will.
I know. All right, brother. Be well.
I'm just trying to refrain from punching somebody in the face, man.
Listen, I know some cats here in Chicago that would ask you, why are you refraining, man? Let's go get it done.
I just may need bail money, Richard. That's what I'm going to be looking for.
As long as they don't take your phone, as long as they don't take your phone away, then you know you can get bail money from me. So, all right, man, go. Love you, brother. Talk to you soon.
You too, man. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye. That's Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. Do we have time, Henry, to take a 30-second break, or should we? All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will be talking with Congresswoman Robin Kelly. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views. We'll be right back.
Great if life came with a remote control. You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose View, 773-763-9278, the Credo mobile phone and text line. We're keeping it moving this morning because we have been fortunate to have wonderful, wonderful, wonderful guests and our own Congresswoman, Robin Kelly, with us this morning. Good morning, Congresswoman. How are you this morning?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
It's been interesting trying to get back to D.C.
Yeah, I know. I saw
the weather.
I know. I saw a post from Representative Mark Pocan, who said that his flight was canceled, and he was actually driving from Madison area down to Chicago so that he could try to get on the flight because he wasn't going to miss me being there for the potential vote. So, how are you holding up?
That's right. I'm always going to hold up. My flight was supposed to leave at 3, and it finally took off maybe like 7 something. I'd been at the airport since like 1:30.
Wow.
But got here probably 10 something or later because, we lose an hour.
Right.
But I'm ready for the day.
There you go. Well, thanks for being with us. I know it's been a few weeks since you were on last, right before your birthday, and it was great to have you then. And I know that there's an uphill fight that you are ready for, and you're equipped to be a part of that fight with regard to this vote. And I know that so many people are counting on our caucus to stay in alignment and not break, so that we have the numbers, and that there is a handful potentially of Republicans who realize that their districts matter than the dude in the White House does, and that they will get their right mind. But what are you seeing in this space? What are you hearing, if you can share any of that with us this morning?
Sure. Just in, we've all been out of districts working, and we know that our constituents don't like this bill, and it will hurt many, many of our constituents, even their constituents. They are actually voting against what their constituents want. We never know on the House side who we can count on. We know typically Massey will be voting with us for different reasons, but he'll be voting with us. And now that Don Bacon said he's not running again, he represents the blue dot, maybe he'll vote to do the right thing. A lot of them know the right thing. They just don't do it. And I don't know, maybe it'll give them some pause now that the bromance is over and Musk is saying whoever votes for it, I'm going to get you, so competing against Donald Trump. So I'm hopeful. That's all I can say, that we will have enough to stop them. Remember, before, we only lost by 1, and we had 2 colleagues that were sick, had to have operations, and I believe that's the day one of our colleagues died, if I'm remembering my dates correctly.
Representative Connolly, right? Is that correct?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So, so we'll see. We'll see who is brave. We know we're sticking together because it's an awful bill. Yeah. When you think about the people that will lose their health care, won't eat, what they're trying to do in the schools, all the environmental cuts. I mean, we're actually, taking a step back or a few steps back.
So the numbers are staggering, and the domino effect is even worse. I was talking with gentleman Alex Lawson from Social Security Works earlier in the show, and we were breaking down some of the numbers, and Alex made it clear, the dotted line, that's my language of how this is connected to the next, to the next, to the next, is palpable. But this is, Representative, thank you for being with us, and I'm going to ask you what might be perceived as a stupid question, but I have to ask you this question because I want to get it from you, and that is, what is stopping them? I mean, it's like if you, me, and 8 other people were walking down the street and we heard sirens blaring, walking down Michigan Avenue at Michigan and Ohio, and we heard sirens blaring, and you could see 4 or 5, trucks coming. We would probably stop at the intersection and let them go by as they're heading probably to Northwestern Hospital because it's obvious. What's stopping this? It's so obvious. What is stopping Republicans from going, please help us out.
Fear, retaliation, those are the big things. And the fear could come from having a primary, but also the fear could come from threats. We've gone from, I think it's 4 or 5 years ago, a certain amount of threats to Congress people, like 1,000 something, up to what they're saying is 9,000. And, the interesting part is January 2nd, so many of them played it off, Torsey Day or Love Day and all of that. But we see how you really thought about it because you're afraid that could happen to you. As you know, I was one of the last people out on my hands and knees. What about 19 of my other colleagues? They took it very lightly then, even though we have video of them running and blah, 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 blah. But I think that's what it is, fear, because they are working against a lot of their own constituents. The rural communities will suffer. 9 rural hospitals in Illinois will close. And then there'll be some urban ones that are just hanging by a string now. People already don't have access. There's already healthcare deserts, and they are going to make it worse, much worse. And when you say we're all connected, if you don't have money to buy food, then you can't go to whatever your, whether it's Kroger, Harris Teeter, Jewel, whatever you go to, Pete's, Mariano's, so you won't shop there as much. That means they won't need as many workers to work there. That means they won't buy as much food from the farmers. We're all in this together. We're all connected, and we can say that's happening to the other guy, but we're going to become the other guy sooner than later, unless you're a, billionaire, but his top 1% or 2%, the people he really cares about. We are all in this together, and it will happen at one point or another.
And I'm that's why I wanted to ask you what my self-proclaimed stupid question, but I know that you have
not stupid.
an insight into this, and that's honest and real, and it's transparent. And that word fear, they're fearing him. And not just him, I should say, but they're fearing retaliation of sorts from people that are part of this cult. I mean, but not seeming to fear the folks that voted them into the office that you all hold. I guess my brain sometimes can't get there. I mean, I said this to Henry, who is our board engineer. I said, you would think that someone on one of your Republican, and I'm not going to call them colleagues because I can't call them a colleague, but one of the Republicans in the House would look at this and say, wait a minute, I'm going to go back to my district and I'm going to say to the people who voted for me, this is what he and others are trying to do, not to me, but to us as a community.
Right.
And hold that press conference and say, it's not, they're trying to hurt me. You elected me, but they're trying to hurt you guys. And I just don't get where the Republican folks that you have to work with, I'm not going to call them colleagues, don't have the temerity to say, that's how I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to surround myself with the people that elected me so that those are, quote unquote, my protection rather than these knuckleheads that are in Congress. I don't know. Maybe that's
like, no, Tillis got that, like Tillis from North Carolina, but it's a shame you get it and then you decide not to run instead of fight, But yeah, they are paying more attention to D.C. than they are the people that support them. But also a message to the people that support them, they need to pay attention, and they need to vote, and they need to not vote for people like that again.
Yeah.
That's the other part. They need to be more afraid that my constituents who I was sent there to represent are going to take me out. And sometimes you may vote on something that, it may look different or how your district should think you should vote, but go back and explain why you did. I had a little bit more information, or I knew this was going to happen or that was going to happen, but they don't care. It's a sign of disrespect to me.
It would seem to be, and I love how you put that. It's a sign of disrespect to the people that got you there. Governor Pritzker here in Illinois decided that he's going to run for a third term, and one of the statements he made was that I'm not going to desert the people that helped me get here. I'm not going to run from them now when they helped me get here, and I'm going to be able to do what I can to stand in the void. So let me ask you this question, because I know we've got limited time, and I want to make sure that you got a few extra seconds to, get yourself. I know that feeling. You can't just leave the minute before you got to go. You need to leave 5 minutes before you got to go, in case somebody stops you in the hallway. So I understand. But I have to say this: we are super proud that you threw your hat in the ring. You're running for U.S. Senate for the soon-to-be vacated Dick Durbin seat. And there's folks in the race that are your colleagues, and y'all get along and you care about each other. So I'm going to ask the question in the reverse rather than in what people might think. In the event that you or Lieutenant Governor Stratton or Raja Krishnamurthy or whomever else throws their hat in the ring and they don't win, if you don't win, what happens for you at that point? How do you look at this process and what you do as a congresswoman if you don't win, or if any one of you, somebody else wins? That's always the case. Somebody else may win the election. What do you do, and how do you perceive things at that point? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, well, for me, if I don't win, I still have, 9 more months of being the congresswoman, and I will do, everything I can do, make the most of those 9 months to help my constituents and help the people, as you said, that had the faith in me and put me in Congress. And then I will do everything I could do to make sure whoever comes out, because there's about 8 or 9 people vying for my seat, that whoever comes out of that we work together and share what my successes have been. If they want to hear my ideas of what made it work for me, it would be 14 years, do everything I can do to help them. And then everything I can do to help Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah,
I have so much respect for him. He's my classmate, my little brother, I call him, my homie,
and both of you all are originally from New York, so, I know that you...
he's still there.
Yep.
And we came in together.
Yeah, you did.
We came in together, and so do everything I can do to help with that, and continue to help with trying to raise money with whatever dues I have and things like that, because that's the thing people don't think about. Like for me, I pay a lot of money in dues. My dues now, which are on pause because I'm running, $550,000, and not only do I pay my dues to help other Democrats, I singularly help other Democrats, and I've been doing that for a long time, and I don't have the most money or anything like that, but I am very much a team player and want to help other good Democrats come into Congress, because that's how we get things done.
So you win. So I asked the question out of order. So you win. Okay. So what's the windshield then look like for you as we kind of get to a close? Because I know I want to tighten up and end a little sooner, so you've got a few extra minutes to get down the hall. But you win. So then what happens? How do you look at the world then?
Well, when I win, I'm sure the Senate folks will come in and try to tell me something to do, but I'll continue doing what got me to win, traveling the state, speaking to as many people as I could possibly speak to, but still doing my job. I have not abandoned my job at all as far as being the congresswoman. Again, still doing my job, still doing what I could do to help, Leader Jeffries, and then still helping the person that came out of the primary that's going to take my seat, and I would take them and introduce them to people. But then, you know, I have a lot of buds in the Senate: Lisa Blunt Rochester, Cory Booker, you know, Chris Murphy, Ruben Gallego, you know, a lot of people. So I would want to start, you know, learning those lessons too. But I still got to beat the Republican. You know, you take nothing for granted. You just never know. So I'll still be heavy on the campaign trail, and again, trying to meet as many people I know. I know I am good at building relationships. You know, some people that didn't think they would like me in the district I have now, you know, there was an ugly op-ed written in Danville that I would not, you know, they would never see me. And I know the mayor and others will tell you that is not true, that I travel all over and try to build relations, whether you voted for me or not, because I look at it that I still serve you, you know, and I still want, you know, people to do well, and I feel like we all do better when we all do better. We're all healthier when we're all healthier. We're all safer when we're all safer. So I look at it as my job to try to lift the votes, all the votes I can, and make this really a better place.
And you've done that. I mean, you're so dedicated. And listen, y'all, in case you aren't following Congresswoman Robin Kelly, you need to follow her on social media, because I think you've got a doppelganger that's been out there going and doing so much stuff. You were everywhere, and you've been so
I try.
You've been so focused on letting folks know the work that you've done and that you're doing and that you are going to do, whether you are reelected or whether you are elected as a new senator in the state of Illinois. And that is something that I hope you're proud of, because I know I certainly have been following you, and I chuckle every now and again. You'll show up at a venue, and you know there might be 20 people in the room, but you're there and you're representing the people of the state of Illinois and the people of the country, frankly, in the way in which you've been going about getting out there. So I really appreciate it.
I give my staff full credit also. You can't do anything by yourself. And I've been very blessed for 12 years and 6 months to have a fantastic staff. Some of them have been with me from the beginning. You know, some have come and gone. Some come and gone and come back. But I'm very, very, very lucky to have the staff I have and the dedication that they have to get the job done.
Yeah, and that's a part of the leadership. The followers follow a good leader, and leaders bring in good followers. So that's a credit to your ability to put things together like you have. Listen, Madam Congresswoman, I know that you got a busy schedule this morning and you had a lot going on, so I'm going to end the session a little early, only because I want to give you a few extra minutes. Believe me, I know how it is. You've been in Chicago when traffic suddenly went crazy, and now you're trying to find a new route to get to where you got to get to. So I appreciate you being with us this morning. I know our listeners
anytime
all over the country appreciate you. And anything that we can do to support your efforts, you know we're here for you. And I know that this week is a tough one with the bill, but hopefully you have a good 4th of July weekend, okay?
Thank you. And we can come back and talk about the bill, whatever passes.
Yeah, let's do that, because I know folks are going to have some questions and we want to know kind of the breakdown. So let's give it the days that we need, and then we'll get something back on the calendar. Sound good?
Okay. Sounds good. Have a great day.
I will. You too. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Uh-huh.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Congresswoman Robin Kelly, y'all. I wanted to have her on. We've been trying to put it together. We had her on back in April, and in case you don't know, for those who are outside of the immediate area or outside of Illinois, she is the Congresswoman from the 2nd District. And when she brings legislation to the table, brings things to vote, she works hard to get it done. But I know that this morning's a tight morning for folks trying to get back to D.C. The weather's kind of wonky there, and they're dealing with that. So that's why I wanted to end the session a little bit early so that she could have some time to do what she needs to do this morning. We'll have her back when she's got a little less pressure on her shoulders when it comes to timing and travel. So you all know what that's all about. Henry, let's take a little bit of a break, and we'll come back. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line. We'll be right back.
WCPT 20th Anniversary Replay 2015.
Our happy ending this week is the number of callers, and I appreciate everybody calling in. Even the ones we politically disagree with. That's the great thing, is that we actually managed to have a conversation.
That guy said he listens all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. We can disagree as, gentlemanly. I think that's the essence. That's what we appreciate about this country is we have a peaceful transfer of power that we take for granted every 4 years. We may not always like it. We may have an issue with the Supreme Court giving it away occasionally. But it's a big difference than people, that basically change governments through a coup and a hanging every 10 years. So count your blessings on one end. Yeah, we have a lot of wrangling and.
It's kind of like why I watch The Bachelor sometimes, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh my God, this drives me crazy. I'm sure that's why that guy listens,
Exactly, right.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers possible late today. Otherwise, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops with a high around 90. Winds out of the west around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low around 69. Thursday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops, high of 92. 4th of July Friday, sunny, high of 95. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 75.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back. I know you guys had a few questions that they wanted me to try to get to the Congresswoman, and I appreciate you getting them to me, but we were just on a tight schedule. So I appreciate the text about questions. But I didn't want to run her up too tightly because she's got a crazy morning, and as many do. So there you go. But great to have Congresswoman Robin Kelly with us. She's a fighter, y'all. And this goes back to something that I said before, and I know I'm going to say it again. We have a strong bench. We have a lot of fighters on our side, and I know that there's oftentimes the comment that the Dems aren't doing this, the Dems aren't doing that. I get that. Believe me. There's days when I'm like, oh, they need to do more. So I can hear you and I can understand what you're saying in that space. But we have a great bench of folk. And I'm happy that we have them. And now it's just that we've got to make sure that 36% of people that didn't vote find a reason. And hopefully our current officials and those who are running give people reasons to get out and vote this time. And push through whatever their blind spots are as to why they didn't vote in this last national election. That's also got to be something important on a local level, meaning that we have to have more turnout here in Chicago in our mayoral election and all the rest, and certainly with our state elections. So voter turnout's always important, and I know that Kurt briefly talked about this in terms of voter suppression. But one of the biggest voter suppression tools that we often forget, in my observation, is when people feel disenfranchised and just don't vote. So that the systemic voter suppression is one thing, but the attitudinal voter suppression is another. When people just don't feel like they want to be, or they choose to not be part of the process, all of us have to work hard to make that different. And when I say all of us, I mean, let's just go back to what Congresswoman Kelly said. We're all connected in this stuff, and what she said the things that you guys will hopefully, I hope y'all heard it. Sometimes people say, well, they're not saying this or they're not saying that or doing this or doing that. She said what she's doing, what she's working on. And she said why it matters that we all are participants in this process. I got to believe, Henry, that an elected official, and I'm going to speak for Democrats, not for Republicans, I got to believe that they sit back and they go, gosh, I can't believe that 25% of our electorate didn't show. I won my election, but damn, 25% of the people didn't even vote. What am I doing wrong? Maybe that's me. I'm a self-actualized dude. I'm introspective. I'm clean up on aisle 7. Real time. But I do wonder, they've got to think, like, what more can I do? And so some of this, guys, and listen, don't be offended by this. Ask yourself this question. I thought about this yesterday. I remember right where I was when I thought about it. I said, how many of us have stopped and asked the question, what more could I have done? What did I not do? Did I self-edit when I was about to say to someone, are you registered to vote? Are you going to get out and vote? Have you thought about being a part of a campaign or a group or an organization? Have we ourselves been our own worst enemy by self-editing at that moment when you're about to ask somebody, are they participating in the process? And did you have enough, and don't take this the wrong way, you guys, I'm saying it to be inspirational. Did you have enough courage or fight your own demon of worrying what they would say back to you if you talked about politics with them? Do you know what I mean? Does that make any sense, Henry? It's like we all have those moments. It's like that moment of truth when I'll put it in this vein to put a fun spin on it. When you're about to ask somebody out on a date and you're like, or just ask somebody to, whatever. You're right. That, I believe, none of us are immune to in this world of politics and social conversation. It's probably the right thing or certainly a good thing to do to approach a person and say, are you registered to vote? Are you involved in the process? Are you doing something? Do you know who your elected officials are? And the list goes on. And you stop yourself out of the fear of how they're going to think about you asking them that question. And human nature, you feel like you're going to be rebuffed if you say something. I want to submit that now is the time to get past that fear. Because part of what I think we all have to be willing to do is recognize that part of our responsibility is not just to put this in the laps of our elected officials, but part of our responsibility is to say, the people that I know and that I care about, I need to maybe push a little bit harder. And push harder sounds a little bit aggressive, but I need to work a little bit harder to try to get more people engaged. Maybe it's in our labs and not just in having the elected officials go, gosh, 25% of the people didn't vote. What can I do more of? I don't know, call me crazy, guys, but I just believe in my heart that there's more that we individually can do. And that's why I said day before yesterday the importance of starting your own protest groups, starting your own activist groups. So let's take a tiny break. When we come back, we've got one clip that we're going to try to squeeze in before we wrap up the show today. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. Let's see if we can shop blue and slay by looking at clothing brands that support the Democratic Party. Nike. Now, yes, Nike's co-founder is very Republican. However, the other 83% of the company supports the Democratic Party. $894,000 in 2024. Dior. Now, Dior does not give to politics, but some of their employees do. And 84% of their donations went to Democrats in 2024. Adidas. Adidas also does not give to politics, but a lot of their employees do, as 97% of their employees' donations went to Democrats. Gucci. Gucci also does not donate to politics, but their employees do, and 84% of their employees' donations went to the Democratic Party. Chanel. Chanel also does not give to politics, but guess what? 99% of their employees donated to Democrats in 2024. I would hate to be that guy in the 1%. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to the show. As I say, always make sure to stay tuned to our WCPT Progressive lineup, the Stephanie Miller Show, Tom Hartman, Jonas Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and all the rest. I got a text, Henry, and someone says, I'll just read it to you guys. The text is, this person oftentimes gets on me about things that I don't do the way that they like, so I wonder if it's a bot sometimes. What does, quote, do more often mean, Chu? No one ever defines what doing more even looks like. Even if they did more, these people will move the goalposts and say it's not enough. Well, my point is, ask yourself the question, what could you possibly do more of? I don't know the answer to that question. If you're looking to me for the answer of what you can do more, that's me telling you to do more, and that's not my position. My position is to ask yourself, what could you do more of? That's defined by you. So to the person that sent that text and to anybody that might be asking that question, I'm asking you to ask yourself, because I asked myself that question. What more could I do? Could I spend more time? I'll stop there. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. I'm putting it out there as a way to find a way for us to get that 36% down to 30% that don't vote, or 25%. I don't know. Because I don't want to. We keep saying that our Democratic leaders aren't doing enough. And I ask the question, are we as individuals doing enough? How about we maybe look at some personal responsibilities of what we didn't do? And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I said we, not y'all or you, we. Maybe we should look at that and go back to something that Congresswoman said, and that is when we all tip the scale, we all tip the scale. That's not her words. Those are my words. All right, let's grab one quick call before we wrap up today. Let's go to Dave in San Francisco. Dave, good morning. Thanks for holding, man, and welcome to the show.
Oh, morning, Richard. And you bought me time enough to make a good breakfast. You were talking, doing the interview earlier, reminded me that this bill, it doesn't have any self-preservation in it. You remember a week or so ago when there was that hot spill, and there's a kind of a famous video now of a car driving along, I think it was in St. Louis, and the road buckles up and the car is thrown just as the car is driving. And that's because the pavement became, 160 degrees, whatever incredible heat. Right now, Italy's going through 115 degrees. So this budget doesn't prepare for climate change. It doesn't prepare for the roads buckling. It doesn't prepare for the sewers being deluged with these massive storms. There's no self-preservation in this budget.
It takes away. It actually takes away in the areas of climate as part of the and indirectly through the infrastructure bill. So keep going. I'm sorry, David.
Well, right, and I contend that Project 2025 are probably the world's biggest polluters, and they don't want to pay for repairing the earth. They do not want to pay. And they will instead put their money into buying a crook as president and ripping apart self-preservation. So in 1776 or various other years, the people figure out that they're not getting their money's worth out of the current type of money. And if Donald Trump is in control of the American dollar right now, we've got to swap out the money and find another value system, because these guys they do not want us to spend money on self-preservation. And they can sabotage their pollution lawsuits by ripping apart the EPA, by ripping apart studies, by ripping apart the National Weather Service, NOAA. All of these different institutions that keep track of pollution, they're all of a sudden ripped apart, and it's destroying evidence. So self-preservation is involved here, and that's what the budget's all about. And if they want us to be trapped in their fake money construct out of this bill, we're going to have to come up with a different value system.
That's an incredibly insightful point this morning, David. And that's one of those, wow, I didn't realize it from that perspective. When you connect all the dots, though, it makes complete sense. Dave, thanks, as always, for your call. And I hope you enjoyed that breakfast you made. Take care, David.
Bon appetit.
All right, bye now. My man, David. He's always insightful, guys. And that's one of the things and blessings and privileges that I've embraced with this show, is that we have so many wonderful, great listeners and contributors. And I know sometimes you all throw some stuff at me that when I say that, I mean you get on me about something I could have said differently or in another way, but it's all appreciated. And so thanks, David, for that conversation, and I appreciate we were able to give you some time to make your breakfast. Henry, I'm just chomping to play this Senator Murphy clip. Can we knock that one in real quickly? Let's put that one in real fast.
Is it fun? Are you having a great time, Senator?
No, this sucks.
I mean, we're debating a bill that's going to cut health care for 16 million people. It's going to give a tax break to, massively wealthy people who don't need any more money. There are going to be kids who go hungry because of this bill. This is the biggest reduction in, nutrition benefits for kids in the history of the country. I mean, this is the most deeply immoral piece of legislation that I have ever voted on in my entire time in Congress. If you are anybody except for a very, very rich person who can show up and pay the membership dues at Mar-a-Lago, you do not matter for this Republican Party. And you are seeing that on display right now, every single amendment that they reject.
And yet what's interesting is that working class people do see Donald Trump as somebody who sees them. And that's part of the reason why they say they voted for him. And when asked about the Democratic Party, they say the Democratic Party has moved away from us and what we care about and what we need. They don't see me any longer. This is what they say. I'm not sugarcoating it. So how do the Democrats, if as you argue, the Republicans really only care about the Mar-a-Lago set, how do the Democrats convince these voters that they were fooled?
Well, I mean, the first thing we need to do is just explain what this bill is. And, the polling varies. Obviously, it's a deeply unpopular bill, but there still aren't enough people who know what's actually going on here. Because you're right, a lot of people, heard Donald Trump say during the campaign, and they've heard him say over the last few months, we are not cutting Medicaid. I mean, he still says that. And yet this is the biggest cut in Medicaid in the history of the country. 24% of Americans, working Americans, get their health care from Medicaid. They're going to lose it under this bill, all to finance a tax cut for his Mar-a-Lago friends. We've got to tell that story all around the country. I was stuck here this weekend, but I was due to be in Wichita, Kansas. I was due to be in a deep red state because Democrats have got to be all over the country explaining to people that they got duped by Donald Trump. But then the second thing we need to do is stop offering incremental solutions. I mean, when this fight is over, yes, the Democrats are going to have to tell people what we're for, and that should be a massive increase in the minimum wage. That should be making it a whole lot easier for people to join labor unions so they can boost their wages. That should be breaking up these big monopolies, corporate behemoths that are keeping wages suppressed. People don't want marginal changes to our economy. They want the Democratic Party to be for really big, bold ideas. And if we pair those really big, bold ideas together with a constant focus on shouting from the rooftops about this bill, the most massive transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the wealthy in the history of the country, then I think we have a shot to win back a lot of those working class and poor voters that did vote for Trump in this last election.
He's absolutely right, and that's the more nuts and bolts part that I talked about earlier. But it also has to be that big message of the Republicans screwed you, and that this sucks. The other part that I want to highlight real quick before we wrap up. The other part of this problem stems from the people like the Katie Turs of the world. Let us not forget, the mainstream media made it easy for Donald Trump to tell the lie. So when Katie asked that question, when I first heard this clip, I thought, hell, you're part of the problem, too. You're one of the ones that allowed him to get away with this garbage because you all wouldn't call him out. So I'm going to leave you guys with that reminder that as much as the Dems we want our Dems to do the hard work and keep in the fight, the mainstream media dropped the ball in a very intentional way because they knew that Donald Trump was lying. They could not have not known. With all the things that he ran on that they're not delivering on. They're still not calling him out on that. So the mainstream media, the Katie Turs of the world, you are as equally complicit as you want to blame the Democrats for not doing their part. You didn't do your part, at least the part that should have been done for the American people who follow and watch your shows. And if I saw you face to face, I'd call you all out. Your own colleague, Michael Steele, said, part of the problem is us. And with that, guys, I'll leave you with that as we head out today. Thanks for being with us today. Thanks to our guests for being with us. And as always, progressives, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
It's nice to know someone is on your side. Mark Drugs always has your back.
No two dogs are the same. A dosage form or strength of medication that works for one dog may not work for another. A compounding pharmacy like Mark Drugs is here to help you with your pet's medication challenges. We'll be happy to help you when your pet is sick. After all, it can affect the whole family. That's why we give our four-legged patients customized medications to make it easier for them to take. For pet medication problems, first see your veterinarian, then talk to your hometown independent compounding pharmacy, Mark Drugs. If you'd like to know more about the ways we can personalize medication for each individual patient, we'd be happy to help. We are a compounding pharmacy, which means we can prepare the medication prescribed in a strength and dosage form that meets the patient's needs. Ask us how our pharmacy can help. You have a choice when it comes